Welcome to the Spoiler Alert podcast. And today we are going to be starting a new kind of video. We're going to have a slightly new format option for the future going forward. We have the main Spoiler Alert podcast where we have long form discussions about films. And then we also had our J-horror episode of Movements in Movies. More is coming for that as well. And then we have a couple more formats coming out. And one of them is going to be recommendations. These videos are meant to be a little more short, a little more to the point, more so spoiler free for sure. They're simple recommendations. Dakota will be having some of his own television, video games, books, things like that. Things that we don't necessarily cover in our basic channel. These will be little appetizers before you start watching a show. Like check out one of these recommendation videos or before you start reading a book. The first of our recommendation videos is going to be HBO's television series Succession. We mentioned it in our Rand video. It's basically King Lear on Wall Street. And if you don't know what King Lear is a play written by William Shakespeare, where a king makes the mistake of holding on to power too long while his daughters and their husbands vie for the throne. Succession is created by Jesse Armstrong, and it was also produced by Adam McKay and Will Ferrell. If you've seen some of Adam McKay's drama films, more like dark comedy drama films like The Big Short, Vice, films like that, it's a little more in that vein. People in the Succession world, in the Wall Street world, don't talk like normal people. There's always like these nonverbal cues. There's always a subtext. There's always something else going on. They all are trying to be one move ahead of the other. The cast is led by Brian Cox, who has played King Lear many times in the past. He's pretty famous for it. You might recognize him from Men in Black and Troy and things like that. And he's more renowned in his theater experience because he's a titan in that way. Like he's just been around forever and he's really great at that kind of shit. And honestly, he is probably the best lead actor in a series I've seen since Cranston and Ham in Breaking Bad and Mad Men. He's really fucking good. Brian Cox plays Logan Roy, who's a media magnate. He has this news organization that he feeds corporate propaganda to at his will. He uses it as a tool. He can buy local news stations like it's nothing. More power than the president. He calls the president for favors every now and then, and he can get presidents elected. This is the kind of rich we're talking about with this family, with the Roys. The second eldest son is Kendall Roy, played by Jeremy Strong, and he's also a very, very good actor in this show. Really, there is no weak performance, so it's going to become redundant. He's very good. It's kind of funny because in a way he's kind of like more relatable than others because he has some viewpoints that are more modern and make him less of a dick compared to his father. He can play the mind game though. Like he can play the mind game. He at least flirts with a killer instinct. And that's a big thing in this show is killer instinct. The next most important character I would say is Shiv Roy, Siobhan. They call her Shiv. And she's played by Sarah Snook. She's also really good. She has more of a heart, less of a killer instinct, but she is manipulative, very manipulative. And she plays the game very well, right along with everyone else. Third in line in terms of age would be Romulus Rome Roy. And he's played by Kieran Culkin. Kieran Culkin is actually Macaulay Culkin's brother. He actually appeared in the first two Home Alones. He was the kid that wet the bed and wore the glasses. Also, check out the Pizza Underground if you're interested in more post Home Alone Culkin history, I guess. But Kieran Culkin is like very witty, very rude, very crude, just a real piece of shit. He's the least sympathetic character aside from Logan Roy. And if you don't know the story about the whole like legend behind the creation of Rome, is there was Remus and Romulus digging like the trenches for the walls of Rome when they were creating it. And Remus fell behind and showed weakness. So Romulus killed him. It's kind of like a Cain and Abel story. It's that killer instinct. And Rome has the killer instinct and he can talk to people. He has his own bag of shit that holds him back, though, for sure. The oldest brother actually here is the half brother, Connor, who is played by Alan Ruck, who you would recognize from Ferris Bueller's Day Off and films like that. He's really funny. Probably the dumbest of the four. You kind of feel bad for him because he's like the oldest brother. You think he would have like a little more affection, but Logan is pretty shitty to him compared to the other three. Really, no one thinks he's in line for any kind of inheritance or anything like that, even though he's got a decent right to it. He's a goofy motherfucker too. And then one of the best odd couples in the show are the characters Tom Wobsgans and Cousin Greg. And Tom Wobsgans is Shiv Roy's husband. He's kind of more of a Midwest type of person. He still has definitely like a Wall Street sleaziness to him, but he's a little less incubated in that life. The son of a very successful lawyer from St. Paul, Minnesota. He's played by Matthew McFadden, who honestly is getting a decent amount of buzz coming into award season. So watch out for his name. His dynamic with Cousin Greg is possibly the funniest and most entertaining dynamic in this entire show. It's pretty good because it kind of takes him under his wing and is shitty to him, but then they're good and they're shitty and then they're good and they're shitty and then they're good. It's just, it's a fun relationship to look into sometimes. So speaking of Cousin Greg, he's played by Nicholas Braun, and Cousin Greg he's kind of like this young, like starts from the bottom, now he's here type of guy. Like he started off just as a mascot, smoking weed in his costume and puking in the first episode to, kind of finding a footing and kind of playing the game himself. And a lot of people have him as the dark horse to finish with the inheritance at the end of the day. That's not a spoiler. We're not to that point in the series nearly. And a good thing about the series too is it has a built-in ending to it. With the structure of the show, you kind of all know what direction it's going. So I don't see it as a show that's going to run longer than it should. So that's a problem that modern television tends to have. But this one has an expiration date attached from the very first episode. You understand what direction this is going. It's just a matter of time. I'd highly recommend this show. It's really good. I've rewatched it several times. I think season 1, 2, 3, they're all brilliant. The season finale of season 2 is one of the better single episodes of television I've seen in probably since Breaking Bad or, Mad Men, something like, or True Detective, something like that. It's fucking up there. I definitely see it as a show that will get some buzz in the next couple years, but even I could almost see it like after it's completed, gaining even more popularity and really showing a light on how a lot of things are done in the world nowadays with Wall Street bailouts, Wall Street power, these legacy families that have extreme levels of influence on politics and money and jobs and layoffs and just mergers. And a lot of the talking too is stuff that kind of goes over a lot of people's heads, including mine. But just don't get intimidated by it, because they find ways to kind of make it a little simple or a little understood. A lot of it's just basically numbers games where it's like, okay, these 8 are against these 6, so the 8 win, and it goes like that and that and that. And then there's different ways to reallocate money and stocks and investment and shareholds and things like that that kind of go over your head if they go too quick. But just trust it that like you're going to understand who's fucking over who. So don't get intimidated by that. This show is great. So I highly recommend it. Keep an eye out for more videos like this. They're a little quicker to make, so we're going to try to get some of them out there. All right. Well, this was the Spoiler Alert Podcast recommendations. Have a great day, everyone.